Hello, friends. Dr. Leslie here. Day 3 of the Sean Combs trial, and I'm going to lay it out for you as a summary of all of the people who are writing a bunch of things about it. And I've said a million things today. Oh my God, there's so much information. I'm going to try to lump it together for you. So, cross-examination of Cassie Ventura starts tomorrow, and I am genuinely scared. And what scares me is that Sean Combs and his attorneys didn't care that his kids were there listening to the most horrifying stories of their father with verbal, physical, sexual, psychological, ongoing, repetitive, weekly abuse for a decade of numerous people. They didn't care that the kids were hearing all of this. Now, the kids were, two of those girls are the same age as when Sean started to groom Cassie. Now, he groomed her for about 5 years, and then he started to introduce her into her first experience of oral sex, and then further into these weekly freak offs that were leaving her with open sores in her mouth. So if they're willing to let the kids see that, then what I'm assuming is that they're willing to put a woman with she's 8.5 months pregnant. They are willing to put her under extreme duress tomorrow and Friday on the stand, and they are going to brutally question her. They are going to make her sound crazy. They're going to try very hard to get a rise out of her, and they want to show the jury that she isn't a victim. They are going to try and show the jury, maybe some of you who are watching and shouldn't be, disc. But I know every jury really does secretly just like cheat and goes online at night. They're going to try and show you that she's the bad person. And what we need to remember is that this isn't about her. We have the country has laid out a foundation that is consistent with the initial charges. So they have shown that there is sex trafficking. They have shown that there's a transportation of humans, for transportation for prostitution across state and country lines all over the world, really. And then they have really built this premise for racketeering and the Rico standard. So they have shown that there were illegal activities that occurred, bribes, likely solicitation for murder, or just unaliving altogether, running out with guns, car bombs. Hunting down people he didn't like, blackmail, extortion. But they have really laid the foundation that he didn't do all of this alone, and they've started naming people. And she openly said, under oath, and she's not going to perjure herself because she's not in a very good situation if she does. That people knew, a lot of people had access to his phone. People knew. Okay. So let's go on to more of these explicit details. So the government has 2 thumb drives full of information, and they got all of that from Cassie. So what Sean Combs's attorneys have, and they still haven't disclosed all of the evidence that they have, and that was a discussion at the end of the day today in court, that they need to give their information to the state's attorneys before cross-examination starts. And they should have done this back in April, and they still have not done this. So they are playing games and hoping that they can get some stuff by. It's not going to work. Anyway, so the jury was shown some graphic freaking images today. They were each given a tablet, and it had a privacy screen on it so that people in the audience in the room couldn't see. And so what they looked at were pictures of the freak offs. And of note was one guy that immediately, when he saw the pictures, he looked away, like horrified. An older woman put her hand to her chest and like gasped when she saw videos. Now she's probably or pictures. She's seeing pictures of Cassie being screwed by multiple men and just horrifying. It's basically like violent corn that these poor people on the jury who are getting paid like 13 cents again and who don't want to be on the jury are now like again like having to watch this. Now Mr. Voyeur Combs probably was like rubbing up against the bottom of the table, enjoying watching their expressions, to the point where all of these photos were also put in binders. They were given to the lawyers and given to the judge, and guess who wanted to take a peek? Like he didn't know what was in them, but Combs wanted to take a peek. And so he just thumbed through some of those photos just to, get a look. Maybe I think that's what we call masturbatory stimuli to be used later, especially when you're locked up and you don't have 10 bottles of baby oil a day or a woman to abuse or 18 million escorts at your. Oh, God. Anyways, so today today was a day of showing Sean Combs's really psychopathic, violent pattern of abuse, the harassment, the lying, the blackmail, the threats to show these private videos of Cassie to people, and that kept her engaged. The hundreds of freak offs that she had to endure, hundreds weekly, even on her birthday. He pulled her from her birthday party to basically have sex with an escort so that he can watch. That there were so many that she constantly had UTIs to the point where the medication for the UTIs stopped working and she would just have to endure the pain of the UTI. She had wounds, open wounds in her mouth from the forced oral copulation, and she still was forced to keep doing it. It's horrifying. And how would she recover? Well, he would offer her massages. She would have IVs. And it sounds like there was a chef who would cook wonderful meals to make everything better. That's so lovely. But also, all of these individuals are complicit in these federal crimes. And what I would like to know is, who are they? Because if you're looking at these people, you're knowing something's going on, especially the people who administered the IVs. Now, also, Cassie was given prescription medications, and she made note to say that Sean would use her name or fake names, and that doctors were prescribing illegally and unethically medications to Sean Combs. And so who are these doctors? I bet these people will come into this too. Again, these are individuals who are helping to build his criminal enterprise. She recorded 10 albums and only one was released. Okay, so he was profiting off of her sexually. He profited off the video or the music video that came out, the album that came out. But how many people was he doing this to, and how many people were involved in allowing him to do this? How many people were complicit? And again, who taught him? Who are the people who taught him this trade? Who are the people above him who he followed? So she described him as, over the years, getting stronger, more angry, and more violent. She had constant bruises. She described one incident where he smashed her head into a bed frame and she had a gash on her eye, and a security guard took her to the hospital. Where are those medical records? Because I'd like to see those. Again, who was the security guard? We have his name, but where is he? Is he going to go to jail? Is he complicit? There was one incident where they were in his Escalade, or maybe it was a company owned Escalade, and he stomped on her head and face with his foot. She had to stay in a hotel room for a week because the damage to her was so visible and notable, she had to hide. That is an extreme amount of violence. So again, we've got security guards complicit and aware. We have the driver of the car aware, and that driver was also was it Redeem, I think, was bringing her Valium and bringing her substances. And so we've had some name dropping so far, and I think we'll have a lot more name dropping. But we have D-Rock, this security bodyguard who would stop abuse. Sounds like he cried sometimes, administered medical aid. She slept at his house once when she was so terrified of Sean Combs and that he was going to be like really, really violent. We name dropped Carrie Morgan. She was the friend who saw Cassie after one of the incidents and called the police, but Cassie wouldn't tell them who did this to her, even though it's pretty obvious, because she was so terrified that he was going to retaliate. Again, another reason people stay in DV relationships. We have named tons of escorts that were purchased or picked up on Craigslist, Backpage, Cowboys for Angels, and these are individuals who are known entities, right? So, but again, what are we going to do with them? Are they a part of this? I don't know. Who paid them? Was it company? Was it like a company? Did they W-9 the escorts? Do they pay taxes? I don't know. We've got Scott that was named, the guy who's who Sean Combs said he wanted his car to blow up, and then all of a sudden his car blew up. James Cruz. We've got a female assistant that Sean Combs allegedly dragged out of her bed. Someone named Ellie, who he punched, and Cassie witnessed this. We have numerous occasions of violence to individuals when they're out of the country on vacation. We have an incident where they're on the 17th floor of a hotel. Cassie has a friend over, and Sean like hangs the friend over the balcony and then like shoves her violently onto the patio. 17th floor. Okay, so is that attempted unaliving? Because it sure sounds like it. Someone named Genevieve, an assistant who brought her ice cream when she was sequestered in a hotel room because her face was so brutally beaten. We've got Roger Bond, someone named Jules, and then we've got that driver Raheem. But basically, we're holding strong. I think the cross is going to throw everyone off. It's going to be very disturbing for everyone. But then when it's over and come Monday, we're going to get back to the realities of this case, which are Rico, which is trafficking, which is racketeering for the purpose of building your business and your entity. But what really gets me is Cassie said that she tried to unalive herself. She tried to walk into the street and get hit by a car, and her now husband stopped her. So I can't even imagine the level of trauma that she has endured, and then having to relive this on a world stage right now is absolutely horrifying. And what it sounds like is the other individuals, especially women who are set to testify because of the abuse of Sean Combs, that I don't think they're necessarily getting cold feet, but they are absolutely terrified, and their lawyers are terrified, and their lawyers are asking for ways that they can support these people as they testify so that they're just not left out hanging. I mean, in a room where everyone's just staring at you and typing, and everyone's so cold and callous. And so I hope we just get these individuals to tell their stories, because trial is extremely re-traumatizing, especially to victims who have not healed from the trauma. No matter which way this turns out, these individuals are going to be re-traumatized by being a part of this. It is honorable that they are doing this because they are making change, and they need treatment and they need mental health care afterwards, significant mental health care, if they are reliving and redescribing, especially on cross-examination to a hostile attorney, being raped repeatedly, being trapped, being held hostage, fearing for your life over and over and over. When somebody says, I've taken a punch before, I can take another one, that's kind of how complex PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, is. Like, oh, I've been raped once, the second one's not a big deal. But what happens is you end up just having deeper and deeper wounds and bruises. And by testifying, these individuals, they will deepen these bruises and they will be re-injuring themselves. And I just hope to God they have treatment and support set up for them after this. So I'll be back tomorrow with a roundup of day 4, the first day of cross-examination against Cassie Ventura.